being willing to learn, right? Willing to learn, and learning means you don't take it personal. So when Southall said I was the fifth option, I wasn't willing to learn. I just was kind of offended first. Whereas the first thing was, okay, I had to figure out my positioning in this role while still being an asset on offense, you know what I mean? Instead of I just checked out because I took it offensively. And that's when it's like, nah, it's a separation of good and great. So that was it. Literally, it was like the intuitive feelings that I felt. I didn't take it personal. You analyze it, right? I remember one of my favorite scriptures was like, hold every thought captive under the obedience of Christ. So like it comes in and you grab it and you just take a gun and you're like, who the heck you came from, right? Like literally that's what you should do. That's the whole point. It's just like, what is that? Like who said that? Like if you miss a shot and you're like, I'm tight, I missed that shot, like I'm mad. You have to like, yo, what, like who is that? Like who's mad here? Because I know I can shoot, right? That's the belief. And then you look up, you're 52% from threes next year, which is gonna happen.
Before you go on to the job at Pratt, I want to loop it back to how you started making music. So in the other interview, you said that you were just like freestyling at a local studio.
In the beginning of time, just always freestyle. I was like 13, 14, yeah. Like
So
with my brother.
I want to know kind of, because also you said your first album was based on your experience going through college basketball.
Yes.
So I want to go like all the way through to like how you started making music and then how you did that and then,
Yeah, it was literally the initial reaction was my cousin and my brother. We just rap, you just rap it for fun. And then my cousin doubled down and was like, there's something though. Like we do freestyle, but you're freestyling. Like there's something on. I'm like,
what are the chances? Is it crazy to after you spit something on the podcast? Is that crazy?
I got like a verse. Yeah, that's nothing. That's cool. Yeah.
We can close with it or we can do it now. I don't give a fuck.
I'm trying to think.
This is the first shift across the border producer.
Feeling, now you got me thinking off the top of my head, feeling average.
Put you on the spot. Like we can,
yeah, we don't have to do it.
Now we're doing the spot, feeling average. Forget the status, new pad, was living lavish. All day with fight was really just on my Brad Pitt. Use commas cause who's here and who's past tense. About who's wanting and willing to go grasp it. Natural thought is turn cold and be more savage. The days accumulate, my presence will be established. Can't escape the facts and actions gonna have reactions. You direct and just yell cut. There you go. That's like a line. I had to think from my album real quick like I'm making. I'm like, oh, yeah.
Clip that.
Yeah, this little bag.
That was hard.
Yeah, I appreciate it, bro.
Okay, but then so how did that evolve into what you're doing now?
He's like, yeah, okay, so now the answer. But yeah, when I was on Elms too, we always used to rap. So then like dudes are like, nah, Meech you really like that. You know, like they would push me a lot. So I remember we recorded down the street. There's a Subway on Chicopee, like over there. There was these soccer kids that had a house. And one of the guys, Donnie, record.
Nothing changes.
Nothing's changed, bro. Like that's why I love the structure of the area because it's just like, it's like memories. But yeah, and then I went there, just rapped. And that pushed me to be like, I'm gonna make an album. I'm not gonna lie, my biggest regret, I was saying this the other day, I wish I just made mad mixtapes in college. Cause I would have ran this whole campus. I would have really ran it. I'm like, new joint, new Meech. I would have sold merch. I would have forced it. But you know, at the time I was like playing it cool and like trying to be really better at it. I was always technical. That's what I'm saying. The technical piece of anything can like stop you from results in real time. You know what I mean? It can stop you from results in real time. Like the great people are technical, but they execute. For sure. Right? So that's why I'm saying that piece about you tracking. It's like, nah, let's get that 50%, but you do it, right?
No, because I also struggled with that. And at one point, like, after I had a day where I was like 0 for 9 or 0 for 11 or whatever it was, and I'm like, I crumpled up my piece of paper, I threw it out, I'm like, fuck this. It's making me too much in my head, and then I kind of went to the shower, and whenever I'm showering after I play shit, I always have like those realizations, like those low moments when you learn. And I'm like, realistically, the percentage is just a percentage, and how I use it is I can either shoot the ball in fear of lowering the percentage, or I could say, yo, I'm shooting 35%, meaning that if I miss another shot, then the next shot is statistically double as likely to go in. And just it depends on how the percentage is just a percentage, and it's going to fluctuate, and how you use that percentage can determine the result. Right,
and then you just lean, and the execution piece is leaning on the F this. Yeah. Right, the energy that you initially feel, just take that to shooting. For sure. Right, and that's where the music started connecting for me, because it's like the initial feeling that it's made me worry about writing less. When I was in college, I thought about writing all the time. Like I always thought about the technique. Is this rhyme? Is this flow? No, but the flow is where the FU mentality kind of comes in per se. That's the only thing I can say right now in the heat of the moment. I wish I could word it better, but that confidence piece, right? Sure. The confidence piece is just show up and believe that you're like, yeah, I'm here. So that was when I started doing Swish. I was in Connecticut, paid for studio time, was always going. I had my homies in the collective that I'm in now. And always would go home, do it, cut it up, stuff like that. The
experience part is really what I want to drill on here, because like as a podcaster, what I'm trying to do lately is like you have to take your experiences in life and sort of translate them into a medium that like people can listen to. And for you as like the artist, I listened to something last night on YouTube. There's this guy named Louis C.K. Do you know who that is?
Yeah, of course.
He's a comedian, and he was talking at George Carlin, another comedian's funeral, and he was talking about how George Carlin every year he would make a new special, and that forces you to sort of like go deeper and deeper and deeper inside of yourself, pause, and create things based on like your emotions, and then you have to go deeper. It's your fears, and then like you keep going. Have you ever had that experience in music where you had to keep finding more, I don't know, just intrusive versions of yourself to sort of like create things?
Yeah, and that's why I'm saying the insanity piece to success will come with that, because I started it like Swish was an ode to my college experience, from the love piece, the relationship piece, that was huge, to the basketball experience and the ebbs and flows and that brotherhood. So then I'm like, that was my acknowledgement. And then the next EP I did was 9-4, but it was huge because I leaned on that without knowing, right? I was always just listening to artists and putting 2 to 2 together. Right, it's the thing, like you can watch a JJ Redick shooting compilation all you want, but JJ Redick, I loved his bravado. You know, that's what I remember why I loved JJ Redick in the first place, because he was like, you know, like, and talking his talk, you know, and that's what steps into, he tells you the analytical. Yeah, Peja Stojakovic was early on taking transition threes, so Coach K was like, hey, we're gonna implement this to our offense, transition threes, take that. But it's like, that's cool, but look at Peja and then look at JJ, how they acted, right? Like, you know, to take, Pedro was European and just good job, handshake, go home to his wife and kids, right? So like, for me, I was like, who am I? And Kendrick Lamar was like a huge like factor of just like the recognition of where you're at and fully indulging in it. You have to be a nut. You have to be insane, but that's what we all are. So then like, just lean on it. But dudes just want to be cool all the time. So at that time, I thought about suicide a lot, right? So then I was like, oh, the idea of my life, I was just like, I don't get it. Like, work is hard. I don't really like what I'm doing. So then I'm like, all right, if that's the case. And then there was a moment I'm like, I got to say something that's opposite. Like, I'm happy to be alive. So like, I acknowledged my birth year, which was 1994. So I made an EP called 9-4. But I was fully invested into that, the initial feeling, right? Which is the truth. Like it went deeper. It went from having fun and just rapping to rap with Swish to then like real life things was happening. My first encounters in my early 20s. And I said, uh-oh. Right, what is this? And then I just, you fully like method act your way into it if you want to be really great at it. And then that led to, once I discovered that initial piece in my earlier stages, COVID happened and I quit my job, right? I quit my corporate job that I worked for. And then I was listening to jazz a lot, and jazz names were long, and I always liked that. So, and I listened to a lot of Miles Davis, Herbie Hancock stuff, Coltrane. And I said, all right, I'll call it I'll Be Back Soon, I Promise. And I was just pretty much saying, like, I need to, like, take some time for myself. Ironic, COVID happened, too. So everyone was forced to be with themselves. And I remember that was a piece, right? And then during my time by being myself, I went through that. Once I was done, I'm already thinking about the next thing. And the thing was, like, in COVID, I wanted to know the truth, right? So it's another layer peeled. And then the truth led to, all right, ended up making a project called Barriers to Knowing, right? And a lot of things that led me to that in my studies, research, life, next thing. Right? And then you pull that curtain, you just keep going, right? You just keep going. So then like my last project was 28. Cause I'm just like, whoa, I'm here, like I'm alive and I went through all that. But the creative pieces, I had a project that I first called 9-4, right? So then it loops into it. I love movies. So then I love sequences, trilogies, like they all tie in together, right? So that's it.
This kind of loops into also what I was going to talk about, which is like, on the other podcast, you said you can't listen to your first album. It makes you kind of cringe. And
oh yeah, at the time, yes,
at the time. And now like we're on our 69th episode, and I haven't listened to the first episode, but I know if I did, it would probably make me cringe.
Yes.
But one of the things I have on my phone, in my phone background, is volume negates luck. And I'm going to try and loop this all the way back around. But basically, have you ever heard of the pottery class like scenario?
No, I love it.
So basically, there's a pottery teacher, and he has two classes, or he has one class, and he splits them into two groups. The first group is graded on how many pots they make, and the second group is graded on the one pot.
I heard this. Okay.
The one pot. And at the end of the semester, Group A makes all these pots, and then Group B has one pot, but Group A actually made higher quality pots and more pots than person B. So basically, the volume negates a lot thing, which is like, if you just make a lot of shit, eventually you'll have the perspective to understand what is actually high quality stuff. Whereas it's like, if you look back now, we've made 67 episodes. If I didn't just take the leap and make the first episode, I have no perspective to judge how good that episode's going to be. Where if I waste all this time trying to make it perfect, you don't have any perspective anyway because you never made it before.
Well,
did you?
My fault.
No,
I was just say before you answer that, also on that, like our first episode was trash.
Yep.
and then we get better and better. Actually, I completely lost my train of thought of where I was going to go with that.
But it's like,
my fault.
the thing is, though, is like,
my fault.
if most people get caught in the beginning stages where it's like they don't want to make something cringe, and it's like, well, you have no perspective because you're in the beginning to judge what is cringe. You just have to make something, and then by the time you get to the 100th episode, you're like, okay, I can understand what actually good looks like, and you know what cringe looks like. Did you have an experience like that with your music?
Yeah, especially last year. I'll give you a revelation and the truth. The answer to the world is law of averages, just facts, like just period. Because what you said, you have to make a lot. You gotta make a lot of ish. Like, I mean, you're now you're good at it, but the thing is, you always were, right? So. You always were to begin with. So you don't show up to a party if you didn't want to party, right? Like you don't do a podcast if you didn't want to do a podcast, which is already separative to a lot of people. Because some people just want to do it and then see if how many clicks, how many this, how many that, and then you get into the one pottery bag. Yeah. But the multiple thing is I do this, right? So that's the difference. That's what I'm saying. The shooting thing, I really hope you leave here thinking, I'm telling you, I hope your life changes with shooting because no one can shoot better than you on the team. I don't have to see it. For sure. I went to a game. I'm like, where's the shooter? I'm like, where's he at? I'm like, literally watching. I'm like, this is horrible. Like I got, and I told Tessier, I'm like, you should be jacking because there's no shooters. Why not? And you're trusting guys who can't shoot. Like they do great things at other stuff, but there needs to be a shooter to isolate it, right?
That's what you mean next year.
Simple.
We're at 10.
Simple.
Okay, so what happened was my phone died. What happened was my phone basically just died, but we have Chris's phone, so we're gonna keep rolling, keeping you guys content.
So much more stuff to go over.
Yeah,
I'm gonna tell you. This is the one. I don't know. Next time I'll do this, I'll give it. I don't know. Next time I do it, I'm gonna give you everything I can. Okay, maybe 3-4 years from now we come back.
You want to say?
I'm still cooking.
You're still cooking. I feel you.
So I want to go into the development of so your job at Pratt. That's where we're gonna go from. Yep. Here. So how did you get that job? And I know in the class you said that you were talking about the importance of networking, and that's how you got that job.
Yep.
So explain that a little bit.
Yeah. Literally the first 2 years they had a program to do to get internships, and it was very rigorous. It was a very rigorous course. And I just didn't do it. I didn't do it. I really wasn't focused. I didn't have my whole intention into it. My heart wasn't really into it. I just wanted to have fun. So that passed, and then junior year, reality started kicking in. All right, you're about to go into the real world. You need a good job, and I don't want to go back to Brockton. I remember that was like the biggest thing. I didn't want to go back to my hometown. So any job that was outside, I was going to take it. Didn't matter. North Dakota, you name it, I'm going. So junior year, I was desperate, which is usually the best. I'll say to get something done, the best thing is just to do it. I would not want to wish the idea of getting things done in pressure situations because your back's against the wall, right? So that's just what happened. My back was against the wall, and I just was like, yeah, I'm going to do this. So connected with the recruiter and fell through on everything. And like I said, I was there, like luck ended up falling in my favor. But that goes to like the pottery example, right? The law of averages. The answer to the world is law of averages because it's about endurance, right? How long can you do it for? And then eventually you do it well, right? Sure. Like versus the person that's trying to, like the analyzation of the percentages is good. But if you already intentionally know you do it well, you have to showcase it. Taking 3 shots. That's not in 2024? Like you go in a game and you look like, if you're a great shooter, you prove yourself, you're playing, right? So things like that.
What I was trying to say before is when we started, we really focused on putting out the highest quality episodes possible, and we were really less on volume and more on trying to make our best episodes. And then we were wondering, why is this not going viral? Whatever. We just put so much effort into this. We just did so much research, whatever. And then Chris was like, yo, I think we need to start doing an episode every single week. Because originally I was like, yo, we have so much going on. We can do one episode every 1-2 weeks. Do you want to come in?
Southall's being a stalker.
You want to come in?
This man Southall. Hey!
Hold this. Yeah. And then I'll finish what I'm saying.
This is going to be a wild fucking podcast, Dad.
I was in the middle cooking something up.
Wait, he's dropping bars. Relax. 2 hours?
No.
What time they close?
Getting in here?
How much longer do we have?
That's a real question.
Because we will take as much time as possible.
I was saying,
if you have another 30, we can go to the library.
If you had another 30, we could get it done. We can get it officially done. If you have questions, we're going to go to waste. Here, hold this. No, we can get it done. If we had 30, you could get it done.
Basically, what I was saying is okay, perfect.
20 minutes?
Perfect.
Okay.
Honestly.
So basically, what I was saying is we really emphasized quality over volume.
Yep.
And at our early stages in doing our podcast, we weren't at a place where we can emphasize quality because, as Chris said, we didn't know what the hell quality looked like. We didn't know what a good podcast looked like. Yeah. And so now we're on almost episode 70. By the time we leave here, we'll probably be around 80.
Yep.
And now we really know what a good quality podcast is. And we can also produce a good quality podcast with a lot less of the effort and the planning, whatever. And we can just come in and we've built the skills. we can just produce a high quality.
It also
podcast.
evolves with like the level of work thing, where before I thought if I did 30 minutes of prep, that was a lot of time. Now I'm spending 8, 9, 10 hours developing all of this stuff. And then that, you don't even know how to work in the beginning. It's just
Correct.
that you're just doing what you think is the most amount you can work.
Yep.
So that just kind of evolves with it.
Yep.
But since we only have 20 minutes and then we're going to have to move, I want to go into the development of Van Buren Records.
Yep.
So how did that start? What is that for the people listening? And how does it work in your life now?
Yeah, Van Buren Records was a collective, initially like a fashion group, clan of friends in Brockton, Massachusetts in 2012. And then it grew into music. My boy Felix started making music, and that developed the branch for the collective / record label piece to Van Buren. So we transitioned into that and things started to fall into piece, man. That's the fire thing about it. Just kind of happened. So I always been childhood friends with him, and things started to fall into place, right? So after I graduated college, I would always be around in college, but once I graduated, I fully started taking it seriously, and then it became a full label, right? And we started adding people that were all people we grew up with in Brockton, and then the success and everything started to come in 2019 when we started dropping our own individual collective projects, and we just made noise in the city. And then once we made noise in the city, we started moving, started doing stuff. We did House of Blues a bunch of times, open for Pusha T, open for Griselda, Isaiah Rashad from TDE, Cousin Stiz from Massachusetts, Boston. And then, and like Brent Faiyaz is like, my boy is like on a song with Brent Faiyaz now on his last album, Larger Than Life, song called Upset. This guy named Tommy Richardson right now too. He has like a crazy record on TikTok, $1 Million Baby. Shout out to Tommy too. Good People's with the team. He's like got the biggest record on TikTok right now. So like things are moving right now in the sense of opportunity, right? Mm-hmm. So now it's more so we had a lot of success. We traveled, moved around, failures, had deals pulled from us, like life-changing deals that in the moment, but it was better that it got pulled, right? In the music industry wise, it was better. And we've gone through a lot of ups and downs, went through 3 different deals, distro deals, label deals, not major label, luckily, but just distro deals, people trying to help get the music out there. A lot of progress.
So I think we can do so much more. I think we can even turn this into 2 episodes. Do you want to pause it right now, go to the library and finish?
Sure.
I think that's the best idea. We'll be back in a couple minutes. I do not. All right, so this is
severe technical difficulties.
This is probably going to be part 2. We might put a little bit of the other portion after we had the first initial stoppage.
Yeah.
We had a relocation because girls softball needed our room for whatever.
I don't even know what's going on.
But as promised, we have a lot of high quality content coming, and we see a large opportunity for a lot of high quality content, a lot of lessons, a lot of just great conversation.
Absolutely.
And so we're going to keep it rolling as much as we possibly can. Get you guys.
Before we stop, there was something I was going to ask you about, and it's like the obsession of the craft thing. So like with the podcast thing, and in the other podcast, you talked about how you were driving to work and you heard a beat on the radio, and then you started freestyling in your car, and like just these moments of inspiration coming to you at a random moment. And I have a friend back home who he does YouTube videos and vlogs and stuff, and he'll be at work and he'll be thinking about stuff, and I'm like, that is sort of a sign, I think, that you're like actually obsessed with what you're doing. If you're just doing other random stuff and it just hits you, and then you have these moments of inspiration. I'm wondering if you could talk about that.
Yeah, and it's there's a maturity piece to all this stuff, right? You have to. The one thing that sadly went out the window because of just technology and advancement was development. Like the development pieces were huge. Like you're talking about back then, media, music. You were groomed, you know, into the profession. So like high level stuff that happened from CBS, TNT. Warner Brothers, stuff like that. These people, men and women, they were in this space for like 10, 15 years, and then you eventually become like executive producer, for example, if it's a TV show, right? So in music, it's the same thing. Sadly, with just TikTok, Reels, Shorts, it kind of heightened instant gratification, right? So then, and that's just the generation we're in. So there was a lack of the development piece. So that was a thing when I first came into it. I didn't really care I came from a small school in high school, so I wasn't like popping. And then Elms was small. So you left with I left with like 1,000 followers, like yippee, you know? So it wasn't nothing like UMass and Williams, whatever colleges and stuff. So it was just natural for me to just care about the craft, like the development stages of it. So same thing when you're doing like the podcast and stuff, like if there's more a genuine love for it, you're going to focus on the actual skills, right? Not the miscellaneous stuff. Because like the fame and the good high level reels is miscellaneous. It just comes with it. Like that's the point of the product, right? But if you don't understand, like I know my dad's story, he makes soap, right? He makes like turmeric soap, for example. And then like inevitably it wasn't moving. at first, but he just kept on focusing on the details, so the packaging, for example, changing the color of the box, the change of the text, right? Things like that. And then now it's like one of our best sellers, right? It just happened after like a couple months, of just consistency in the development piece of how do you sell good soap, right? So music was doing the same thing. Like things would come to me and I would just live in that moment. Like I would be like, all right, I'm rapping about this. I have hundreds of songs that haven't seen the light of day that won't, and then that's the point, right? You find out the sound and stuff.
I've listened to a couple other podcasts where they talk about they use the sandwich shop as an example, where they talk about marketing and sales and all this stuff. And it's like, well, you could market the shit out of it, you could sell the shit out of it, but if everybody comes and they eat your sandwich and it's shit, why would you want more people to know about it?
Yep, correct.
It's the same thing.
It's the same thing. I mean, I think you see things like deli shop, mom and pop shops. Look, I love sandwiches. Like you said that. But like mom and pop shops are high tier, and then Subway is still relevant, right? But in comparison to mom and pop shops, Subway is horrible, right? It's trash compared to like a mom and pop butcher shop. Is over. So like that, it's little things like that. You could see Subway still is relevant, but also Capital's huge, right? They're million, Fortune 500, whatever type of company staying afloat versus mom and pop where they're just trying to get an ad on a radio, right? That's the best they could do with their money.
Chris and I actually, funny you say that, have this like thing where we try and like, I don't want to say we try and like discover, but we love mom and pop, rundown, look like there's probably a couple rats in the back of the kitchen, the chef's going like this and then making the food. And that's always the place that tastes the best because they have to perfect their craft in order to get any recognition because they don't have, like you said, the capital to advertise. They don't have the name, the likeness.
So they live off referrals. Someone's like, yo, this sandwich is banger.
Exactly.
And then someone else
so they have to have a fucking fire product.
Yeah. Right. Because retention in that space, quality and development, like you focus more on retention, right? You want them to just come back. So like this podcast, you want, my thing would be like, if I was like on my business hat, it would be, focus on building a cult following. That's the point. Everyone on campus should be listening to you. That's the goal, right?
Working up to that.
Right. And then when you get that, right, you just go, it just happens. Like it just happens. And someone's like, hey, I'm from Mass Mutual and I saw that, come over here. And then now you go from here to Springfield and then, right, extend. That's the point. But some people are just like, did it go viral yet? And then it makes it not as sweet,
Okay, so I want to go back to your job at Pratt.
Yep.
And how many years did you spend at Pratt?
3.
And how did that evolve and why did you leave?
You said how did it evolve?
As in like, so the first year you
My experience?
Yeah, like why did you decide that job and what made you leave? And
I got you. Yeah, it was just simply the job opening, the opportunity, and the lack of stress of searching for a job that I saw in my peers, my senior class. Because I came in with a job offer right out the first day. So I was like, I don't got to worry about nothing. So it was a little bit of comparison, which is I wouldn't advise because it wasn't smart. And then 2, it was out of state. So it was easy for me to be like, I'm out. And then
get some individualism.
Yep. Grow up, be on my own leaf. And it was aerospace. Like I had nothing. I didn't know nothing about aerospace going in. But that just shows how high moral character could get you anywhere, like in any room, in any space and opportunity. It's not really about credentials to a degree. So that was that. And then my succumbing of it, like it was a rotational program. You go through different cross-functional departments. And then by the time music was happening, my boys were just moving a lot, had a lot of movement, was making more buzz in the city, in the state, in Mass, the Mass hip-hop music scene. And I was just like, looking over my shoulder all the time, every day. And then the workload just kept on increasing, what I mean? And it was just a lack of care, desire. And I just remember, I broke down. Like the last day, I remember there was a report I was supposed to have, and I just wasn't capable of like maintaining the workload with the midst of like my own desires, my own like personal hopes and goals. And it was just immaturity, lack of immaturity looking back at it too, 'cause I couldn't handle it, what I mean? So I was just weak in that department and I just broke down. I remember I just gave up. I was just like, I literally cried. I like broke down right there in front of the manager and then like we talked and he was just like, great man, John Park, and he was just like, yeah, man, go figure it out, what I mean? Go take some days off, tell me what you think. Kind of gave me this ultimatum. It was like a LeBron decision moment. I was like, this is hard, but it's like it really wasn't. I made my mind up. Once I left, I said, yeah, it's about that time. So, and I quit during COVID, right before COVID. Let me rephrase that. It was just I quit off a whim, off of hope, off of just faith, spirit. Like that was it. So, and I got lucky. Got lucky after that. I was able to score unemployment for a little bit and go from there. For a while.
In your Elms bio, it says that you wanted to become a sales representative for a business firm.
Yeah.
So was that the goal going into that? Because I have a sales internship this summer, and you also talked about psychology and that kind of stuff. Were you interested in that field at all?
Psychology, still kind of, yes, like philosophy, all that stuff. But I've like gravitated, which is another story, into that realm. Like I have understanding and peace, which is a lot to do with just like God, the spirit, practicing. That spiritual practice is different. So that's always been me. I've always been a thinker. Sales rep just sounded good. It just sounded good at the time. That's really it. Big business firm. Other people were going to like KPMG, stuff like that, in accounting. You know, they were saying big names. So I'm like, big business firm would be good. Which ended up being an account specialist, a delivery assurance specialist, quality assurance, strategic sourcing at Pratt. You know what I mean? So I went through various departments. But at the time, I just wanted to always sell, like talk to people. Yeah. I love talking to people.
That's kind of where I'm at right now. Is I love the idea of being persuasive and what it takes to sort of like be a chess move ahead of the person in the conversation and just understand what's going on and use your words to get the person to do what you want them to do.
Yeah, it's all spiritual. Like it's so serious because selling, capitalism's kind of heightened the idea of money, right? Performance. It's performance based. How much money did we have? Quarterly earnings, stuff like that. But the best sellers just know how to manipulate reality, right? Because can you call someone that doesn't want to buy, right? That takes a special person. But a lot of people go off of the book and text, which is you don't learn at all. I'm telling you, no disrespect to college or anything. It's just good to have foundationally, but at the end, experience is the best teacher. So I can say that for a fact now. I'm like, man, they don't tell you the nuances. The nuance to selling is not in a book.
Yeah, this is a great segue because my little next point was going to be how you talked on the other podcast that you know way too many successful people that don't have bachelor degrees.
Yeah, or at all. I love the foundation that school brings because some people that are successful in that area, they lack discipline in others, right? So they could be successful in business, but then they're lacking relationship, right? Or they're lacking in physical. Like they're like a bit more obese or too skinny. They don't really understand. They're just like, no, I'm all here. I'm all this. So they don't really have a well-balanced diet, right? But at the time, that was huge. That was always hovering over me because I was like, a little bit, I think I was just mad at corporate world too.
Something I've tried to apply in my life is the idea that like you win in the weeds, where it's like, because you're in the shit and you're going through all this stuff, someone that's not there, they can copy what you're doing or they can go the corporate route and do all this stuff. Because they haven't been in the situation that you're in, they can't understand the perspective at which you're coming at to make a decision. So it's like when you're running something like a podcast, it's like, well, they don't understand that we made 100 thumbnails and then we have to do this. And it's like, well, I'm just going to copy his, but you have no idea why we're doing the thing that we're doing. So when something changes, they can't make the reaction and keep up with the tide.
Yes. And I think when you see things like YouTube, even like Mr. Beast and them, like he's became a whole entity. But I always respected at least the beginning stage when he was talking about like, yo, it was me and my homies and we just case studied all day, right? Like that's the point, right? You gotta be hands on with it. And a lot of people want to be book smart. That's the biggest disease right now. Is like, and podcast has caused that to roll over. I call it like LLC warriors. You know what I mean? Dudes are just like, you got to do this, you got to do that, and then in the end, that doesn't really lead a motivational piece for people when the dust settles. When you get off YouTube, I honestly would feel depressed. Like I'm not doing enough. Versus if you have somebody that's able to engage with you about their experience and be humble and leave it at that, because there's way more gems to work with.
Just on that, like Chris and I had this conversation in the room one time, and he was explaining to me, he's like, yo, I want to be a sales, or I want to be a marketing, I want to make videos. I'm like, yo, why don't you just change your major? Why don't you whatever. Like, bro, fuck that, whatever. We have 800,000 views on whatever, and that's more important. He was explaining to me, he's like, and I never really had this perspective before, because I grew up, my parents like, you want to college, whatever, academic first. And Chris kind of explained this perspective to me. He's like, college, you're not going to use anything you learn.
Yep.
Pretty much, unless you're like a doctor and you're learning step by step how to do open heart
medical
surgery.
Science.
But it just shows your employer, if you have a degree, it's just a physical affirmation that you know how to stick to something for a long period of time.
Yeah.
Which is really, like you said, the foundational discipline of success in any area is just doing the boring thing and just doing it over and over again and showing up every day in order to achieve a goal. Yeah. And that's really the foundation of success in any, I guess, direction you take it in. And I guess getting a degree shows that you can stick to something and work hard and persevere for 4 years. And that's really just it just shows you built that character. Really is like what the employers are looking for. And kind of Chris just explained that perspective.
You're both business majors?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm accounting and marketing,
Yep.
and he is
Business admin.
Business admin. Okay, in that field. So yeah, I mean, you look at the characteristic of business in itself. I mean, just look at the stock market, right? There's no neutrality to any of this, right? Like, and I think when you're nursing science, like, yeah, like you have to nurse someone to health. Like that's all you're not. This is what you have to do. So they take pride in that. You know, Elms was all like, that's the point, right? You're supposed to take pride in that. It's supposed to be insanely rigorous. Because you're literally stepping into a role. It's like, this is who you are. Like there's no turning back. Life or death. You know. So whereas business is, you've seen it. Heartbeats of a company go down and then boom. Like I remember I loved New Balance in 2013, like 2014, and it was not as popular. Like I'm telling you, like dudes were looking at me crazy. They were like $50 on sale, not even on sale, like retail. Like it was beautiful. And then now I'm looking, I'm like, yeah, they just have elite collaborations with top tier creatives, and they have a higher market that's driven. And I'm like, yo, I knew this. Like, you got Jack Harlow, Kawhi Leonard, Jamal Murray, Darius Garland. You're like, what the? You know, like there was no one there, like when I was there. So it's things like that, right? It's just the ebbs and flows of it staying the course in business. So that's why I'm like, I would tell everybody, don't be married to anything, right? Like that's the whole point, especially seeing my dad work in entrepreneurship for the last 14, 15 years, hands-on. So like, there's no reason to be married in anything business.
My dad is actually an entrepreneur as well. Mm-hmm. So he started off as a pharmacist, and now he's more on the business side. And my family, my mom and my dad have a business where they sell like cosmetic creams with natural ingredients. Okay. And my mom runs that, and my dad has taken a bunch of different corporate jobs as well. But the big thing with him, and I think has made him successful, is just his adaptability and his ability. And you're not going to learn that in school. It's just like ability to pivot, ability to recognize when something isn't working and change something. And that's really, like you said, it's like experience is really where that comes down to, and how you build those, I guess, skills.
Yeah, time and place is important too. You know, at the time, I wanted to be out, and I never really worked a job away from my father. So like Pratt & Whitney was like, time and place was like, I wanted to look at, you know how they say like time and score? You know, the decision was like, I want to be under someone else and see if I can do it. And then like seeing I couldn't, I was like, that was what like very awakening. But then now time and place in my life now, it's okay, there's something else that I'm trying to obtain. So you need sustainability. So now it's like, okay, I look at the 9 to 5, the job provides, it's a blessing, right? It provides consistent cash flow to make something out of it. Like that's the whole setup of it. But American culture, just media, right? We spew comfortability a lot. So dudes go there and then they make working 9 to 5s horrible. Which why I had that impression on me, because that was kind of planted in me going into Pratt the first time. But now I'm like, wait, what? Like that's not the point of a job. Is supposed to be literally developmental based, right? You literally work on some things. You work on, maybe you're not really great at Excel, grow in that department. You're not great at delivery assurance and connecting with other cross-functioning departments. Your communication is lacking. You're lacking. Boom, you work on that. Like dudes don't look at it like that. Like we don't look at it like that. Like you go there and you're just like, I hate it. Right? You kind of simplify by one thing, but this podcast doesn't grow if you don't get real jobs too, right? There's no sense, because you have to see business. You have to see other losses, wins, right? Management, know what you don't like, what you do like. Because I had managers I didn't like, the worst managers, and then amazing managers to this day, you know?
Also, like we have to just grow as individuals and experience other things and be in other environments in order to learn lessons and then bring that back to be able to share to our audience.
That's what I was going to say next too, is like we reached a point where we were on campus and we weren't really having any new experiences and things that we could give to them. So we're kind of just sitting there with the mics in our hands like, yo, what the fuck do we talk about? Like we're 21, we don't even know what we're doing anymore. Like it was just really, this content got stale because we weren't experiencing new things.
You're right. And I think the biggest thing is that you took the step. Like a lot of people don't. I was here, there was never a podcast. So, and then I know the times are different and people are always on their phone. The phone causes like the stillness for people to want to be at peace and be at ease. I'm like that's not a good thing in the long run, but if you're going to do that, like bring something that's, like edifying, you know what I mean? You don't want people to just walk around empty. So if you're coming about the college experience and you're college kids, in your case, it's interesting because you guys have a lot of integrity behind your work. So then it's like, all right, you could talk about a lot of things in college, a lot of things that can't be for this camera. Like you could talk about a lot of the experience, but, and I think there's time and place for that. You know what I mean? When you feel like you're at a different point in your career.
Should cross the border uncensored.
Yeah, right. You know, you're gonna have to bring that.
We actually have a lot of people on our ass to like, yo, we should just hop on the mics and just
be truthful,
kick it and just say bullshit and whatever.
So like I can understand there's a balance, and I can understand them too, because I thought if it's just, you got to see if it's in you. right? It's the same thing with your shooting perspective. Like, are you really a shooter? And if you are, shoot it, right? Like, are you going to show up? Because people are scared, right? I was scared to shoot the ball. You know what I mean? Like, I was scared, and I wasn't told that in the first place. So if you're claimed to be that, and then you're scared, like, you know, you go for 22. You know, that's what happens because people are not really claiming who they are. So it's like, yo, if you guys are a truthful podcast, that's how you feel. You know, you're like, man, we got to talk about some things that are moving around right now in junior year. You know, like address it and be like, yo, I went to UMass and like they have their cafeteria. Like we got to talk about the food services.
No, we went to Westfield State and their caf was
unreal.
You know?
No, seriously, because you'll say something and I think the thing is the truth will set you free and the grass is green on the other side. So the reality is like you can say something and it could get you in trouble. Right? It could get you under wraps. But then you kind of look at it, none of this stuff trails you. Like in the real world, you could get kicked out of the school, let's just say because you said the food services was bad. And like you said something, I'm like, but it is. And everybody starts rallying behind you, behind that truth. But no one wants to be that scapegoat, right? No one wants to do it. So you guys have an opportunity, sounds crazy to be like, I'm not saying like go be a scapegoat willingly. If it calls for it though, naturally address it, right? Because you have something that's like, I haven't seen this before. You know what I mean? I haven't seen this before. It's different to have a college. And that's not integrity-based. Because a lot of podcasts aren't integrity-based at all. And the ones that I do like nowadays, it's very rare, man. It's very rare. It's just very rare. Because even I like Gilbert Arenas' podcast, but they be like, I just see how Gil, sometimes you have to act. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? If you want to be, which is, I understand because the internet's nothing. It's not really real, right? So like you go there and be an angry man. They're like, yo, he's such an angry guy. Max is such an angry guy. And then Max like, yo, I can bring 10 people that tell you I'm the nicest guy in the world, right? So perspective on the internet. That's why music was really hard for me early on because I was I was making music to get good comments intentionally versus I'm like, yo, this is heat, right? And then dudes are like, yo, like my biggest record came that way. You know, like I had like a song that's like 1.2 million plays on Spotify, and it just happened. And I had no video for it, no nothing. It was just a moment because of Toy Story. You know, like just a Toy Story transition, added it to the Pixar transition. Boom, like people just enjoyed the moment. You know,
I think we can get into just another kind of block of the episode, which we kind of want to talk about, which is religion. Mm-hmm. I think Chris can give you more of a in-depth, but it says that on the sheet. Because Chris did the due diligence and watched the hours of the podcast, but you
I hope he was shooting.
Grew up.
I hope he was putting up jumpers.
You grew up in and you mentioned, what was it? It was, pick up for me.
Okay. Basically,
I just wanted to get it started. I just wanted to start talking about this topic.
It was a spirituality thing. So in the other podcast, you talked about how your first interaction with religion was really aggressive and really pushy in the middle school. Yep. Do you think that sort of drew you to someone like Osho, who you also talked about in the other podcast, who was also rebellious and sort of pushed away the ideas of dogmatic religion?
Yep. Yes, and I can tell you right now, both sides are wrong. Because like the whole
this is what we want to hear. We want to talk about religious spirituality. So
yep. Both sides are wrong because the approach of it is supposed to be love, right? So like if you look in like just in scripture, because I just love scripture. Because scripture is really there's a lot of life to it. There's always differences. Like you could watch a podcast and see it's structured based versus it's a podcast. Like you get what I'm saying? Like you're playing basketball. Like I play basketball structurally. Like I was playing Elms. That's why I didn't. Jerry like. He went outside. He went out of bounds.
He's a hooper. That's the difference between a basketball player and being.
Come on, college basketball and then like pick up.
When I see Anthony Edwards right now, I'm like, yo, I'm literally like, this is the feeling I haven't seen in 20 years because dudes are playing IG basketball. And he's like, no, I'm just hooping. Like I'm here and you ain't better than me, right? So like spirituality, religion, they come from a standpoint of laws, right? There's a lot of laws that they put in place where it's like, for example, like the old law form in Christianity, because that was like where I grew up in, it was pushed and harped upon because the old law was 10 commandments, right? Thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not covet anything from thy neighbor, thou shalt not love another God above me, things like that, right? It was I was saying this the other day too, like look at the 10 commandments, it's very carnal, right? It's very bodily based, it's controlling the body. And the biggest thing about religion and time is time and place. I'm going to tell you that again, like time and place, you have to be aware of your circumstances. So the context at that time, there was a struggle, you know, Israel, Egypt, in the world, all that thing, to be able to like literally control yourself, self-control. Mm-hmm. And their control, like they didn't have phones and stuff, so it was like wild, you know, they were doing wild things. It's just history. So when I came, they kind of like treated it like it was, you know, the 700s, the 1700s. Like I'm coming into my school, it's 2000 3, like, you know, and they were like, you got to obtain this law, right? So it became very policing, like, and that's when you start to not experience God as love, right? So you go away from it. So that was a big thing for me for 14 years. The concept of God wasn't loving at all. It was rule-based. So when Southwell said you're the last option, I looked at it like a rule, right? You get what I'm saying? Like I looked at it as a rule, as in understanding, right? Oh, Jerry's like the best scorer ever. Zeke is 6'4" and one of the best drivers. Connie's one of the best bouncers. I throw him a lob, he catching that. Kenny's one of the greatest finesse bigs I've ever played with. Throw it to him in the block, and I'm gonna get mine, right? I'm so mad because I said it with anger. 'Cause I'm like, that's all it was. But you know, teachers gotta teach too. So those are those moments is what Southwell had to learn. Like I shouldn't have said it like that, right? And that's why he changes with you guys. So that's the difference with spirituality, and religion's not doing that, right? Religion's not changing in the course of things. Of course, you will get 10%.
20, I think.
20, all right.
Why did you put on low power mode? That was whatever.
Oh, it's gonna stop. It's gonna turn on.
No, it'll be cool.
Okay.
But you do seem like a very spiritual person in the sense of you believe everything happens for a reason, or not necessarily everything happens for a reason, but you believe then in I guess right time, right place, or even higher power.
Yeah, everything is according to design. To God.
Yeah, so talk a little bit about just what your beliefs are in that realm of spirituality and God and time, place, and all that stuff.
Yeah, the time and place thing, because what I really will say is increase the ear when I say time and place, because you have to be aware. Time and score, right? When you say time and score in a huddle, it's a focus on awareness, right? It's you look at the clock, all right, we're up 8, maybe we shouldn't force too much, but let's also not be ease up on the gas though, right? Because then you do that, then you're not really aggressive on offense and they go on a 6-0 run. No, time and score is let's make right decisions efficiently. Right? But that's good coaching with good players makes a happy marriage. And that's when you get organizations. With spirituality, it's the same thing, right? But if I say time and place, and then you start to overthink what I'm saying, you're not going to catch it, right? That's why like in scripture, it would be like, if he hath ears, let him hear, right? You have to come to an understanding and alignment with God the whole time. So like in spirit, like in scripture, they'll be like, God is spirit. You can't see him. No one's seen him, right? In scripture, he's showcased in fire. He's showcased himself in spirit in a donkey. Trust and believe. I was at a Haitian cuisine spot last Sunday, and one of the guys I was working there, like he always is just fun, easygoing, not really too serious. And then me and my boy will talk about like God, life, and just being very, in a communing state, calm, neutral. And then he came around like the last 2 times and said something prophetic. Like he would say something prophetic. I'm like, Pepe? Prophetic? Like literally, if it's like Jaden, imagine Jaden says something serious, like in a moment, you're like, and it's like, that's God talking, right? It's an inherent, because inevitably it's about success, right? It's about leading you down the right path. So Pepe would say something like, Pepe said something like prophetic just now about life. And that's where everyone has that spirit, right? And that's why in scripture, everyone has the spirit. But the divide comes in with the law and like man-made concept, right? Like you have to pray 8 times a day. You have to be on this rug. You have to eat this type of food. I've seen all those pressures. God doesn't provide angst. He's not supposed he's a spirit. Like what is anxiousness? What is worry? What is concern? What is doubt? What is lack of confidence? Insecurity? That's boiled up from man. Like God's just a spirit. He's just a decision, right? So that's why in scripture you see a lot of times there's a lot of decisions and outcomes. Bombing here. Even right now, like the stuff in Gaza, it's a decision. Is it correct? Is it, there's a lot of wrong in it. But it's the decision nonetheless of an outcome. Haiti, I'm Haitian. Haiti is literally being deterred right now by gangs, right? Gang members are just like, we're taking control. Why? Because you have government that was feeding them unwarranted guns to children, like to a big man on campus, like old OGs, but then they see Haiti's down, they're not financially up, right? 14-year-old guy who just wants to get some food, you're like, yeah, he'll do anything. Like a child would do anything. That's why like coaches, when you get players that run through a wall for you, they're usually younger. They're usually younger guys. Usually, right? The older guys are tough. They're tough. Like Jerry and them were tough to play with.
We talk about that a lot, where it's like when you're the freshman coming in, you have nothing to compare it to. So it's like, you're not going to tell a coach to fuck off. You have no idea what's going on. All this shit is new. You can't say anything.
Yep. You can't say anything.
You have no perspective.
You have no perspective. But then when you get more experience and you're seasoned, you have morality. So when you see a gang member who's 42, see a 14-year-old and say, join the collective, you know what you're doing, right? Guilt is measured. That's the biggest thing. Like if you look at this is a random gem, but like even like Adam and Eve, and then like even the snake, right? In the dialogue, God directs to snake first, because it's Satan. It's representing the spirit of Satan. The Satan's spirit inherited a snake. and brought in temptation. Satan already has experience with God. You know better, right? He didn't even go attack Eve first. So like, that's why freshman year I was confused. Freshman year, like Southfield was a stickler. I'm like, damn, like this is my first time seeing a zone, like a real press. Like, in high school, I'm just gonna split it. No one's faster than me. But now you're going against an all-conference guy. He gonna catch you. You're going a defensive 6'8" mammoth beast at Babson. He's gonna block that. And it's like, where's the grace period? And that's the aspect of the Spirit, right? It's an extension. It gives you grace. It gives you perspective. It's all the Spirit is just an extension to your life, right? You can see things for what it is. You can see that phone for beyond its like technology and electronics, right? Some people are like enamored with their phone. How is that possible if it's just technology? You could literally just turn off your phone, right? But what's the connection, right? Like this computer, what's the connection of why you want to still stare at it? That's the questions we always ask when we're younger. That's all the questions I always ask. And then you have understanding of like, oh, there's spirits involved in all this, You
also said in the other podcast that tuition is your higher self speaking to you.
Yep.
And then I was also wondering, does that mean to you that you think God has given you music as a gift to express yourself and that came from him?
It's a learning process because like you don't feel like it is, right? But the thing is, your perspective is everything. So if you go into a huddle, you're down 13 with 8 minutes left, the perspective of the coach is going to skew everything. So if he's just like, reserved, kind of clammy, like, guys, we gotta, you're not going to feel like you have a chance, right? But the perspective is 8 minutes, 13, they gave us too much time, right? That's the point. That's championship programs. That's life. That's success. That's millionaires. Like, oh yeah, what? Rape case from a CEO, too easy. We always wanted to remove him anyways. That perspective versus, oh no, we're doomed. Our stock's gonna go down, right? Businesses struggle. And I see this with ebbs and flows of just even my dad working. So like when it came to like my experience, it was more so learning the standpoint. Because things will happen, your intuition will kick in, right? I always have intuitive feelings. They call it your gut feeling, right? But in the spirit, if you don't have, just like basketball, just like shooting, muscle exercising, you're exercising your spirit, spending time in prayer, meditation, and like the practice, right? The practice. You can shoot like, I love that he does percentages because that's the practice, the technical, the tutelage of it. But then there's the spirit. Do you believe every shot's going in though? Even though you shot 58%, how'd you feel, Mac? Like how'd you feel, Max? You ask those questions. But if you're like, it's a waste of time. So for me, it was like I felt a lot of things. That's our entire existence. We just feel things. Mm-hmm. But the lack of experience, the lack of exercise, the lack of knowledge, lack of wise counsel, having good friends, good people, other people who have the same feeling, because you're not alone. We're not alone in this, right? So we all feel this way. We all have this thought. We all have this concept. So leaning on those, being willing to learn, right? Willing to learn. And learning means you don't take it personal. So when Southall said I was the fifth option, I wasn't willing to learn. I just was kind of offended first. Whereas the first thing was, okay, I have to figure out my positioning in this role while still being an asset on offense. You know what I mean? Instead of I just checked out because I took it offensively. And that's when it's like, nah, it's a separation of good and great. So that was it. Literally, it was like the intuitive feelings that I felt. I didn't take it personal. You analyze it, right? I remember one of my favorite scriptures was like, hold every thought captive under the obedience of Christ. So like it comes in and you grab it and you just take a gun and you're like, who the heck you came from, right? Like literally that's what you should do. That's the whole point. It's just like, what is that? Like who said that? Like if you miss a shot and you're like, I'm tight, I missed that shot, like I'm mad. You have to like, like who is that? Like who's mad here? Because I know I can shoot, right? That's the belief. And then you look up, you're 52% from threes next year, which is gonna happen.
Hell yeah.
You also talked about how you have a whiteboard where you write down all of your goals. Do you still have that?
No, I freed that.
You got rid of
it? My dad, the life has showed me it's all about execution. It's not about like goals. It's about planning and execution.
Yeah, because I was listening to that and I was thinking to myself, I don't write any of my stuff down. I just get the shit done every single day.
Oh man, you're gonna be lit. Mm-hmm. That's it. It's over. Just do that. It's way more. It's way more less. It's less stress.
I was because it feels really fugazi too, where it's like you have it on the thing, but it's like it doesn't. If you have it every single day, it's much more executional and tactical that you can actually say I did this or I didn't do this.
Could you imagine you're in a relationship and you're like, all right, let's write on the board. I'm going to be loyal. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to be real. I'm going to always get you nice things, right? It just kind of leads it up like to expectation. So like the instance those things don't hit, she reacts, right? It's gonna be a reaction. You haven't got me a gift in 3 weeks. You said you were getting me gifts. I said, and you're like, I said I'm gonna get you gifts, but not like all the time, right? But if you do, and that's why the element of surprise and the element of execution, Do you know how to get a gift at the right time, right? Those things. So it's the same thing with life. Like, do you know when to show up, right? You got to be aware of that for sure. Because like before I did that and I got nothing done. Yeah. I got nothing done. I would shoot 2-3 videos a year and they were really good, but I didn't go with I love what you said earlier, like there's a flow state right now. I love that because that's the point. If the shot feels good, chase it again. You know, the next time, it's up. Like I'm making this. You have to chase the flow state, but then you know when to call it quit too, right? That's the balance. Like, okay, I missed 3-4 in a row. They got some bad decisions down there. Like, yeah, I gotta chill. Let me just be a threat. Maybe get to the basket. You know, like try to find other solutions, get out your comfort zone. And life is gonna do the same. So that was the thing. I started being like, the whole point is being comfortable with uncomfortability, right? I always heard that statement, but as you get older, it's just, that's the way to success.
You also said that you like exploring. You don't like staying in one place for too long. What do you think it is about moving around that appeals to you? Because I'm also like that. I've been here for 6 months. I want to go home, and I'm going to Milwaukee for the sales initiative. I just don't like staying in one place for a long time. Well,
I think the one thing is just the setup. My spirit and just my truth is the spirit is a well-traveled man. You know what I mean? So the most wise people have a lot of experience naturally. And even of God, like I love the concept that God's infinite, right? He's an infinite spirit. So as he's here, he's in Ukraine, he's in China, right? He's with everybody. He's just a web, right? So that has to have some resemblance to the person carrying the spirit too, right? To have more understanding of it. So the times that I've moved around and like traveled because of music and mostly music stuff has made me move and around. You just get clarity and you get a lot of realization. Like I've made life-changing decisions, life-altering decisions randomly in my past, like at a bar. You know, you be there and then something would just click in a bar in Nashville. Like I remember we went to Nashville and it was just like something clicked, you know, just one night, you know? So that's the reason why I'm like, people who kind of stay present, stay still, it's to each his own too, because some people like the idea of family, right? So they want to be home, raise their children, put more of their values and their spirit there, which is cool. But overall, a lot of successful people, a lot of just life, I don't want to say gurus, but people that are wise, you know what I mean? And like in scripture, I love it's like wisdom is better than gold, you know what I mean? So no currency can hold value on experience. None, bro. So that was the biggest thing. Like that's the main reason why I was like, I would see that and I was scared when I was younger. Like that, like I remember my boy would say, when you're scared of something, you get closer to it. You usually do the opposite, right? So like, if you like, you're the best shooter, and like it's like this: if you're the best shooter and you don't shoot as much, I see a fear, right? It's easy to defend him. I'm like, you're not shooting enough, right? So you're not scared, but you're scared if you're literally more so like, I'm scared I'm not leaving this possession with a 3. Like every single time I'm coming there, I have to make a shot. That's a threat. Those are people that are JJ Redick them. Those are the scary ones. Those are the guys that you curl on the screen and you don't let them breathe. Because he's like, he's trying to leave with a basket. You know, that you get scared, like you don't shoot. Like, so that was the whole thing that I saw in my own life. Like I was always scared of being bold and being truthful and traveling. I just stayed home, you know, closed in lifestyle, played basketball, no girls, don't talk to me, leave me alone, you know? And then when I got to Elms, it was really eye-opening because you saw other people do the opposite and they were successful. Like, that's so weird, you know? So
that was the thing for me in Buffalo. It was like, because I came from a town of 300 people. So like I had all of these biases that I had built up over the years that I had never checked because I'd never been outside of this small town. And I came here, I was like, why do I think that this is this way when they're doing it? And it's just like, it unraveled so much stuff with me I didn't understand.
Yes, bro. I keep that. That's literally enough. That's enough to know what you need to know and going forward. And it's like, don't you want to exist? You know, don't you want to be involved in it too? Don't you want to be around? Don't you want to meet someone random? Do you want to meet a random, you know, like drug addict person in New York? Like those experiences, those encounters can be life-changing. Seriously. LA, amount of times I met people just at a deli shop or a coffee market and they say something prophetic. Billboards, you know, I remember we had a billboard in New York and we were there. And then like I met this guy to this day named Rock. He was a former crack addict, bro. He was like 75 years old. I talked to him every Sunday just because of an encounter. He was like, oh, that's your billboard? Like, are you guys talking the good word? Are you giving a good message? Right? And I'm just like, you know, and that was a 4-hour quick New York trip, you know, spur of the moment. I had now a budding relationship with a 75-year-old who said, I did crack for 50 years. I'm not proud of it, you know? And he's like, I've seen the beauties of life, the lowest moments of life. He ran into his son at a gas station asking for money, didn't know it was his son of 20 years. And he's like, I've been looking for you, you know, stuff like that. Like these are real life stories. So don't you want to see that? You know, don't you want to hear more things about that and you become more well-rounded, right?
I've heard a quote about like, if you look hard enough, you can see the beauty of God's creation in anything.
Anything.
Yeah.
anything. And I think I would put it like this. The goal the goal, that's true. And then the goal for your life is you naturally look for God in everything, naturally, right? Once you have to like punch yourself into like trying to see the good in people, which is tough now. Like we have a lot of war, we have a lot of discourse, debating shows, and you try to like, bro, LeBron James is the greatest basketball player ever created. It doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. You don't get that passing level, that athleticism, that mind, that touch and feel. Even though his handle's not great, it's good enough, right? He's just good enough at everything. It's crazy, right? So then like when you have someone like respected debate shows, you have to keep the capital, the cash flow going. It's an act. But if you're telling me like, okay, LeBron's not the greatest and you decrease it, you devalue it, I'm checking out. How do you not see God in that? Like, how do you not see glory in that? In a 4-22 season, how do you not see glory of, you gotta be better, right? That makes no sense. How is it every year there's a discouraging piece? That's why with Elms, I always seen that. Like the basketball program needs to see it not discouraging. Like you have to see like, yo, we won 4 wins, let's get 10. You know, we have to be reasonable, right? And get there. But to come back like, you know, we had 4 wins last year. On the first day of a new year, like September, you come in, if you hear one voice of someone talking about last year, it's like, yo, you're clipped.
Yeah, that's something we noticed. Like as soon as we got here, everyone was like, "Yo, we're Elms. We don't win that many basketball games." And it takes one person to be like, "Yo, we're not that program anymore. Let's just go."
Bro, there's banners up top. There's 1,000-point scorers. Like this was, I'm telling you, like, and it was the opposite. I came, it was nothing but pride. Right. So it was just like, yo, we're really like that, you know? And I said, damn, like, all right. And the first year we made it to the championship. And after that was like quick early tournament exits because of that spirit. We were coming the next year and like, yo, last year, Tim Putnam, like, you know, he wasn't good with shooting threes. And he's a shooter, right? But I'm taking the spot. And I'm just like, competitiveness is good, but the overarching theme has to be like, yo, we have a lot of room to be able to improve and shock the league too, right? You come in, dudes are putting their guard down naturally. You know, these dudes have been scrubs for the last 4 years, you know? So now your teams are playing you down to a level, you know?
Oh, my storage is full.
We gave this podcast. This is the third.
No, literally, you put your best foot forward.
This is a third phone change, second room change, fourth stoppage because of something. Yeah. We're going to leave you uncensored. Rob, we're going to wrap it up, bring it home. We gave it everything you have.
Amen.
What is...
I was going to say, the last question we asked the last 70-something guests, what is one piece of advice you would give your younger self?
Hold yourself accountable. Hold yourself accountable and maintain, nurture, and grow your faith. That's all you need. Hold yourself accountable. So you get called out, don't take it personal. Take it. And if you're getting called out, you're getting ridiculed, you're getting critiqued, that's amazing. That just shows a lot of areas of improvement, a lot of open space for potential, a lot of opportunity to grow. I always took it personal. Don't take it personal. You know, these were literally the things I wish I heard. In truth, like I wish it sat in my heart. You know what I mean? Like it was like my lifestyle. So yes, hold yourself accountable and maintain your faith. Just keep the main thing the main thing. Keep the main thing the main thing.
Raps, episode 68.
Go! Appreciate y'all.
Holy shit.